And somebody taught me early that if you do not have something to update on your resume every quarter, that means you have stopped growing.
Hi all, my name is Patricia Tan and I'm the Executive Recruiter for Sales and Marketing, Digital and Technology. Welcome to another episode of the Shift Podcast, where we chat with movers and shakers in the digital and technology industries.
Today, I'm really excited to introduce a friend of mine who I've known for more than 5 years, 6 years. He is not only the Chief Growth and Digital Officer of Sing Life with Aviva, he's also the founder of Fintech Nation, Fintech 65, Bole Ventures, and also the author of Singapore, the Fintech Nation. I don't know how he does it, but ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Varun Mittal.
Thank you, Beth.
Thank you so much, Varun. Thanks so much for coming here. And you're so pumped up, when especially you talk about fintech, and I always joke with you like the fintech boy of Singapore, right? I think everybody knows you. And so tell us a little bit about what is your latest gig? What's happening?
I usually say I'm high on life.
Very high.
So a day job, building world's largest digital life insurer, where we have an insurance, payments, wealth businesses with 1 million plus customers in Singapore, building and scaling that.
Wow.
And so it's a great journey and an opportunity to really create impact to the lives of customers. Because what COVID taught us was what uncertainties can cause to us and our families. And the crash before and after COVID has also created like a second order layer and the talks of recession. So people are nervous about their livelihood, their retirement planning, their financial freedom. So that doing something where you get to exercise your core capabilities of building digital platforms to create impact for something way beyond your first degree or second degree circle.
Let's talk about your night job, Varun.
So the nights are more passion, hobby projects. I've been involved with startups. We built HelloPay, which was acquired by Ant Financial earlier. I've been involved with the startup community, the Singapore Fintech Association, which we built from scratch. So one part of it has been investing time and energy and capital as well in the companies. So last few years, we set up a small structure to invest in all these companies. And the last part is what I say is the building the community. So
what about this book, Varun? Tell us more. What inspired you to write about this book?
The inspiration actually came off a trip to Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. I saw how Israel was called a startup nation. I'm like, okay, so how did the name come in? And I figured out that there were two people who actually wrote a book. So Israel, different parts, right? Regulators, government, founders, capital, VCs, they were all doing stuff. But there were two people who actually sat down to, codify that, this is what happened. This was the things we learned. This is how we do next. Because important is not just what happened, is what you do next. And they codified. I was like, we're doing something similar or to a better scale from that perspective. In Singapore, in financial services and Fintech Nation. Yeah. So why don't we call ourselves Fintech Nation? And
awesome.
funnily, some of our neighbors cannot call themselves nation. So we have a luxury that some cities cannot call themselves nation. But we can call city, state, nation, all works. And Honorable MD was very kind to write the foreword for the book. Chief Fintech Officer so supported with the initial introduction chapter from that perspective too. So we have more than 70 founders and industry leaders who were interviewed for the book to bring together the whole story of here are the 3 frameworks which applies to different parts of society.
Got it.
And now we're working on the second edition of that.
Wow, already?
Yes.
Where
That's
do
2
you
years.
have the time? 2 years fly by, right? Flew by so much. But look, Varun, you, it's amazing, right? You're definitely one of the most energetic individual, that I've known, and also someone who I would say the youngest C-suite level in a regulated financial services company. How did you do that? Like, did you have all your career, your career path all planned out from the beginning upon graduation? Tell us.
First thing is, don't chase any titles. They don't mean much. But the important thing is to know is, are you improving in what you are doing every month? And somebody taught me early that if you do not have something to update on your resume every quarter, that means you have stopped growing.
Wow.
Easiest way to measure.
Wow.
If you have not done anything where your resume is, if you have, let's say, you have a 2-page resume and you have not done anything which gets you to update, I mean,
Yeah.
you could have exceptions somewhere.
Absolutely.
Clear
It pushes you to be adopting the growth mindset.
Exactly. So, which is why, yes, there could be
Yeah.
times of your life where it's not.
Yeah.
But then you know that, okay, you're building something which will come out stuff. But if you are just doing the same thing and there's nothing new from that perspective, you stopped improving. Because improvement is a compounding. Imagine if you improve 5% every year, improve 10% every year, you're already double in 5 years. If you're improving 10% every year, you're double in 5-6 years. It compounds.
Maybe, Varun, if I can bring you back to your first job, do you know or did you anticipate, did you plan that, okay, I'm going to go on this company? Because your career trajectory was an interesting one because you started on the client side and then going to a consulting and then back to the client side. What was the motivation with the move? Or was it intentional or was it just by accidental?
I didn't plan any of it, to be honest. I just focused on, are you growing? As if you keep growing, stuff will open up.
Yeah.
Because to be honest, if you ask 3 years ago about that, will following industries get digitized? People won't believe. If you would have asked people about that the whole travel will be shut down for 2 years, nobody would forecast. But what I push myself hard on, that are you moving forward? Whether it's vendor side, client side, investor side, those are factors which will evolve. It's very tough to time those. But it's usually they say, right, you need a bit of luck. The working hard part is under you. And then luck will happen. Sometimes you can get extra lucky, sometimes you can get less lucky. But if you don't show up, then even if you have the lottery ticket and you don't show up to check the number, you can't cash it.
But when you moved from the client side to Ernst & Young, was it a learning curve or certain skill sets you wanted to adopt which resulted you making the move?
No, it was very simple. I was doing a startup. I was EY's Entrepreneur of Year in 2016. So the first time they trained, like somebody they acquire and they train them in English, the employee orientation to be done in English. And the folks at Ernst & Young who gave me the Entrepreneur of the Year, they were like, a lot of stuff is happening. You come on this side, you see what the corporate world would look like from this side. You are the startup side extreme. You can show us some things. We will show you the other things. And then we figure it out from there. I was like, but I don't know PowerPoint. But it's okay. We have enough people who know PowerPoint.
You can do it for you.
We don't need, no, it's more of like, they're like, you can learn it if you need to, but PowerPoint is not what's the most exciting thing why we are talking. But you bring a different way of looking at things and doing things. You come and do that. We show you what we do. You will learn. You have a lot to learn from that side.
Absolutely.
And the managing partner is very, like he's like a mentor. He says, worst case, we don't like each other. And after 6 months, we can still part off as friends. Let's take it as a 6-month experiment. It ended up being 5 years.
Yeah. So on that transition, was that a certain mindset you adopted?
My point was, worst case, it will fail. I'll go do a startup again. But what's the worst? A lot of people try to over-engineer things.
Do you think a lot of talent out there, they're overthinking an opportunity? Was Ernst & Young role a regional one?
Yeah, it started as a regional and then became a global. Global was accident. A Middle Eastern country was trying to build its financial services infrastructure. there was political challenges, that there were some kind of political sanctions, social sanctions against that country. I'd never been to Middle East. A lot of consultants were scared that if you go to country A, then you're blacklisted from country B. I've never taken a business class flight in my life. I've never been to anywhere in the Middle East in my life. What's the worst? You'll blacklist me from somewhere I've never been, and I don't even have a plan.
But Varun, what were the consistent? Because obviously, Varun, you are so knowledgeable when it comes to fintech. Your knowledge about the ecosystem, your network is impeccable. You know everyone. I mean, it's more like who doesn't know Varun Mittal, right? And honestly, like, I have so much respect, and you achieve so much at such young age. At what point do you actually realize, wow, I made it, or that was just still going? Because that is, for you, it's about learning, it's about developing.
See, the premise is this, right? The way I look at it is this, right? If you look at from pure dollars perspective, right? Everybody reaches a point where every marginal dollar will refuse to change your life. You will reach a point where you cannot consume anymore.
Yeah.
Because just because I have more money doesn't mean I can eat 10 croissants, or I will eat 10 croissants for breakfast. Or not. Just because I can afford. Just because you can afford a buffet doesn't mean you will eat the whole buffet and everything. Every day and every dish and the thing.
All right.
So the premise is, the dollar part is, I would say, solvable. The intellectual part is reverse. You can actually eat as much as you want when you talk about intellectual curiosity and when you talk about what impact you can create. Those ones are infinite strings. Consumption is a finite string. People will say consumption is also infinite string, because then they want that bag which comes once a year from Hermes, then they want another auctions thing. But I don't have those hobbies. I never had money initially to have those hobbies. I still don't have from that perspective. So I don't have any of those brand conscious hobbies things. On the basic consumption level, I have enough, by God's grace. Anything else won't drastically change the consumption.
Yeah, agree. But was that like, because I'm curious, right? When we spoke a lot of times that, a lot of candidates, they have very short-term goal, right? They tend to look at titles, salary, brand name of the company, even. What would be your advice?
Look at, different people get happiness out of different things. So sometimes the people who get like a psychological safety zone, that okay, this is an MNC company, stable, will be there, will be around for another 5-10 years at least. And also different people at different phases of life. You have no kids and your life expenses are limited, you can take some of these things. Versus you are a single earning member and you have 2 kids, school going, then your risk appetite can be different, or the other way. So which is why what's important is to know that what will give you that happiness where you can have a peaceful sleep at night. What's important is for people to just map it to like, this is what I want short term and this is what I want my long term. The challenge happens is sometimes people don't map it to themselves.
Yeah.
So they're just following the horde around what's happening.
So that's a great one. The fear of missing out syndrome, FOMO. A lot of candidates, when they're looking for jobs, they like to say, my friend got this role, got this title, got this salary. To me, that is very, very short-sighted. Because, and also for me, that is not the logical way of choosing your career just because someone else has it, someone else does it. So like back to what you're saying, that it's important to really understand what you really want and understand what you're good at as well. Okay, so then let's talk about your decision-making process, right, Varun? You are very humble. You keep saying, it's by, of course, it's time, right place. You got to share a bit more. What are the tips and what are the strategies or rather, what are the advice for people who may not necessarily, everyone is aspiring to be the youngest C-suite, but at least to see how you progress, I really want to dive a little bit deeper.
The way I would look at it is don't strive to be something, strive to be best in what you are. Because the premise is whosoever is, so there are two kinds of career. There are staircase careers and there are orbit switch careers. And both of them have their pros and cons. So you have staircase careers that, okay, this is what I do, and if I do this for X many years, then I'll climb the next stair, then I'll climb the next stair. And that's fine, that's absolutely fine. But if you want to look at like orbit career, then you need to be the fastest moving electron in that orbit to move to the next orbit.
Right. Okay.
So are you the best in what you are? If you are best in what you are, you will have opportunities to move to the next level. So focus on being best in what you are.
Okay.
That's what is in your control. The luck, the destiny, the timing is not in your control.
Yeah. When opportunities knock on your door, Varun, what are the top 3 things you look at?
The first one to look at is a lot of times it's important to not jump at the opportunities. Second, I'm a bit of skeptic in some things in life. Like what's the downside? Because everybody can look at the upside. What more important is to look at what's the downside. Look at the downside. And third thing I would look at is, do I have something to be best in it?
And when do you apply that? At the early stage of career?
No, it depends, right? What you are looking for. If you are looking for a scenario where you believe that you have ability to drive, then you look for a certain thing.
Yeah.
But when you believe that you are entering a thing where you are not the domain expert, so no matter what you do, so for example, if you ask me, let's say 1 year ago, am I an insurance expert? Hell no. Hell no, I'm not. Then I need to find a place where I find people who are smarter than me in the insurance domain. Insurance domain. I acknowledge in my day job, I have a lot of people who are 10 times sharper, smarter, more experienced than me on the insurance domain. So it's simple. I acknowledge that if I have to broaden my horizon, I have to go to a room where there are a lot of smarter people than me. But if I were to look at a different phase of life where I say, okay, I'll do something next, where I could choose a different path next in 10 years from now, 5 years from now, then I could choose a different path. But if I'm trying to expand my horizons, then I choose the former. If I believe that I have built enough, then this is my time to monetize and harvest it, then I choose the set.
Awesome. Oh, I like that. So this is $1 million question, Varun, that I ask every single speakers in Shift podcast. When we met for coffee quite some time back, we talk about the importance of building horizontal knowledge capabilities instead of deep expertise in this sector. What are your thoughts about that?
I would say it's not like do this versus this. It's a question of what do you want to be. So there are people who like to operate on breadth, the people who like to operate on depth, and these are natural styles. Some people can play both, because imagine you have two people with same vertical skills, but one has 3 country experience, one has only one. But if you're playing horizontal, then you can still do a lot more in Singapore market. But yes, you add a horizontal plus geographical exposure, then you become like gold. But you add 2 verticals, horizontal, plus 2 geographical markets, then you're platinum. So, and of course, switching countries is not easy. Getting multi-country exposure is not easy. Learning multiple domains to have like a horizontal T-shaped personality, that comes with the different pros and cons.
Do you think this regional exposure, it's what the future employers are looking for, especially in the fintech space?
It's not just fintech. You have option candidate A, no regional exposure.
Got it.
Everything like to like. Candidate 2, have regional exposure. As simple as this. So premises, Singapore is a small market. You have to do stuff regionally and stuff. If there is somebody you believe that person has the ability to take risk, has an open mind to try different things. I'm not saying somebody who doesn't have geographical exposure is not a great candidate. All I'm saying is all things equal, if somebody else has
That's the added advantage.
has added, then it's different. So the question is this, right?
Yeah, that's a interesting way to put that. But I'm also realizing that it's not easy for a lot of people can gain that regional experience or more so other countries' exposure. Again, some people have family and all that. What would be the advice for them to stay competitive?
You could get like a regional role in the same company.
I see.
You could join a smaller company which will give you a lot more because you're just trying to do multiple markets. If you're in a large company, then people are more siloed by country. You could move to the horizontal part of the organization function to get something beyond that local thing. So you can do in the same company. You can change the scale of the company to get that, even if you have to be in the same country for that matter. So there are different ways to try to achieve that. And if you believe that that's a game you don't want to play or that's not the right for you, that's fine. But then you need to be the best there or closer to the best. You have to move towards being a domain expert in that. It's absolutely fine. But then you see, if you're mediocre in everything, then you should not aim for extremes outcomes. So you need to, of course, there are times you can get lucky in life.
Of course.
But most times I have learned you have to work hard to get lucky.
But on that note, Varun, because I want to talk about experience, right? A lot of candidates out there have been in big organization because that's where, upon graduation, thinking that big organization and all that, and then going to a startup, gaining that whole horizontal capabilities. Is there a preference? You see the fintech, based on the recent fintech landscape, is there a certain preference for a certain kind of experience and skill sets?
I would say it's a lot about aptitude as well, right? There are people who says, "Oh, I have done a marketing major, and that's what I want to look at. I want to look for a role there." The people who says, "I've done accounting major, but I'm open to figure out stuff. I'm happy to learn and figure out stuff." So, real example. So, one candidate I know, he used to be an intern from a polytechnic and went to national service. Once he finished national service, he called me. "Boss, I'm done with national service. Now I'm going to start to look for university." Like, why university? Like, nobody will give me a job. Like, told who said who? Enough employers will be very happy. What you have is enough. Your side hobbies that you build websites for people for pocket money, it's good. It's good skill. And what you learn from your Polytechnic Technology Institute is good. And the market has enough talent crunch that they won't care about, trust me, they won't care about degree. So, which is why it's depends from that perspective. Like, what do you want?
That's a big topic.
In specific sectors of economy. And now some of them may not make merry while the sun shines.
Yeah.
And we can then figure out. And nobody can blame us that the crypto industry went down. Neither we make it rise, neither we make it sink. We know it will, this salary levels are not going to live long.
Yeah.
It's okay. We take them for as long as. We can always go back to normal things.
Sure.
So if you have that level of clarity, then it's very different.
You know it, that you're there for sure. Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah.
And there are people who say, we want to figure out. Because one thing which I learned was, what is the cost of taking risk? When you're a 2-year experienced person, your cost of taking risk is 1/3 the cost of taking risk by a 10-year experienced person. So front load the risks you want to take because your cost of taking risks will only go up, not down.
That's true. So true.
And also look at what's your family condition. The people who says, I need to support my parents.
Yeah.
So their risk will be very different than people who says, I'm working because I want to work, but I'm going to stay with my parents. All of that is okay.
I think to each of its own, right?
Absolutely.
It's about that. But is there any, if you look at fast forward 5 to 10 years down the road, fintech, what is your, or what do you predict the landscape is going to be like within the fintech space?
I believe that a lot of things we haven't even started in the fintech space. If I look at, for example, the amount of money which is lying idle, the amount of people who are cut off from the financial system. So very simple example. Singapore has about 300 to 400,000 people working in gig economy. And none of these, zero of them have CPF. If you deliver food packet, you drive taxi, then who gives CPF? Nobody.
Yeah.
Got no CPF. Here's a segment of society and their families also. So if these people are working, they have families. So if you look at what's the proportion of your society which is now cut off from that safety net which was built by the forefathers, by the previous generations, the safety net, they're out of that safety net. Are you going to unwind that social? So there is a, think of it, this what is called as a social contract.
Yeah, social contract.
The social contract. You have to rewrite the social contract.
Interesting.
Do you think the ride hailing is going to go away? Food delivery is going to go away?
No.
You think the young generation who wants to work on their own, there are more than 20,000 real estate agents in Singapore.
Wow,
There are more than
I didn't know that.
20,000 financial advisor agents. Before COVID, there used to be 4,000 money changing shops in Singapore with more than 12,000 employees. So there is a structural change in employment, which creates a structural change in social contract, which includes retirement, which includes protection, which includes savings, because your CPF gives you interest, gives you annuity, gives you everything.
Yeah.
And 400,000 in a 5.4 million people company in country, where this 400,000 is not alone, there are families behind them.
Yeah, that's true.
Financial services has a huge opportunity to step up and create solutions for this. Because CPF is technically a financial services construct. And Singapore is not the only country.
Neighboring countries.
Gig economy is not a Singapore-only context.
Indonesia. What are your thoughts about digital bank, crypto, all these virtual offerings that's happening now?
Give you example, there's a real social problem, solve them. For me, the way I look at it, you have real social problems
Really
you're sitting on, solve them.
Yeah.
Is there enough for them to do? Absolutely.
Got it.
It's up to them. Singapore has 340,000 foreign construction workers and maids. And let's not look at Singapore alone. So most of these digital bank players have plans for region and everything.
Yes, correct.
These people, when they either they send money back, nobody is helping them save, invest, have protection for them when they have a problem. So there is old definition, like financial inclusion doesn't mean having a debit card.
Yeah, it's more than that, for sure.
Financial inclusion is where financial services helps you materially improve the quality of life in present and future. There is more to financial services, fintech, and financial inclusion than getting a damn wallet and a debit card.
Tell us more about, Varun, any mistakes, I think LinkedIn, a lot of people glorify the success on LinkedIn. I think the purpose of the podcast is really getting the audience to learn from C-suite leaders like yourself. What are kind of the mistakes that you have made, and what are the key learnings from the journey since you started work?
I would say one thing is important to know to not neglect your health in those ages.
Well
where
said.
where you just say, I can slog it off. I got this. The way your hard work compounds, your stupidities for your health compounds too. The other mistake I would say is knowing when to calibrate. A lot of times it's not important to be the fastest. So one of my former bosses gave me a feedback that why don't think of it this way. You have cavalry and you have artillery. You have cavalry and infantry. You have to go to war. I'm the war general. I need you to go to the battle together. I want my cavalry to protect my infantry right by their side. So it's important to be in coordination. It's important. So sometimes you can be on the cavalry side, sometimes you can be on the infantry side. There are people who could be faster than you.
Yeah.
The people who could be faster than you. But during the youth ages, you need to know that you have to go together. You have to go together to go for the bigger scale.
Yeah.
If you are just going for smaller battles, you can probably do that.
Yeah.
But if you want to hold the ground for longer, you have to go along. And it's important to calibrate and pace.
Yeah.
What people don't realize, it's tougher to slow down than to scale up.
Is that something is your guiding principle in life and career?
As I'm growing up, I am learning more,
Because
on...
obviously, Varun, you have reached C-suite so young, so
C-suite
fast.
doesn't mean anything, to be honest. Trust
Yeah.
me, it doesn't mean anything. See, premises, I said you could go and be C-suite of a small company. Or C-suite doesn't mean anything. It's a question of what is the role,
So the title.
Impact. What's the impact you have to create? The title doesn't mean anything, to be honest. Titles keeps coming and going. People manufacture titles all the time. But titles is okay. Titles will go.
What advice would you give to the younger generation who aspire to enter fintech?
You don't need to be a programmer. People think that you need to know tech to join fintech. You don't. I mean, you know it's good, but there are enough functions. You have product, you have marketing, you have sales, you have operations, you have finance.
Yeah.
What is most important is, do you have a mind which is open?
A lot of candidates enter the fintech bandwagon because everyone is talking about it.
It's the flavor of the season.
It's like a flavor of the season. What about for mid-career talent who are looking to switch to go into fintech? Is there a space for them?
Absolutely, because the premise is this, right? These days, even the biggest banks call themselves 50,000 people fintech. When you talk about complex problems, when you're talking about systems, infrastructure, you need to be able to use those learnings. The premise is, if you are joining a smaller, faster growth company, you may not have as much of the ready-made infrastructure available as you would have in a very large corporate. So mid-career is one, but mid-career from a large corporate is another thing.
Yeah.
If you're mid-career, large company, that's the steepest curve. Because you take a lot of things for granted, which you do not have access to when you go to the other side. So, which is why you need to be open to that. And it's okay. If you're not, then you need to look at similar firms. So I have a friend who said that, dude, my first priority is work-life balance. Okay, I understand.
Nothing wrong. Yeah.
Under no circumstance shall I be required to work more than 45 hours a week. I'm like, okay. So then he found a very large global bank operations role. And he's very happy. He's very happy. And he left fintech to join something like that. It was reverse.
Interesting.
He said, I don't want to run so fast.
Awesome. Thank you, Varun. This is really awesome. I mean, hearing coming from you, giving such insightful, tips and takeaways. I hope the audience find this very interesting, which I'm sure they will.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Thank you for listening to the Shift Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, you can show your support by sharing it with others. Leave a comment, like, and subscribe to our channel on all platforms that this podcast is on. Stay tuned for the next episode.